I don't know if you want to shut that door because the noise may come in, people talking, and I got 10:30 on mine, so I don't think if anybody shows up, it's their loss. You guys all ready? Okay. Appreciate everybody showing up here today. As you can see from my opinion, there will be no charges filed against the 2 Wyoming officers involved in this incident back on September 16th. Quite frankly, I think it should be commended for how they handled this situation. It was an extremely volatile situation. I'm going to try and walk you through what happened here. I think the Kent County Sheriff's Department did really an outstanding job of investigation. There's quite a bit of it that was captured on, material, whether it be the 911 calls or the body cams that we can share with you. So I think that helps, obviously, for you to see it. I have edited out a number of, pretty much any of the civilians. Their names have been edited out of anything here. And any, I've tried to take them out of, pictures of them being in the body cams because they do show up in the body cam. So you're going to see blue dots over those. Trying to protect their privacy as much as we can, but you do have their address on Lemyra. When this all happened. I think I'll start out by kind of how I took it from the beginning. This was a pretty simple 911 call that initially came in not to, you can hear it from the voices that it was a stressful situation, but nothing too critical until it progressed. This is about a 5-minute video. The actual one's about 10.5 minutes because it goes all the way past when the actual 911 caller started to when she left the house and was outside for a period of time. But I'll start the period. I think these are the most important parts.
Somebody's trying to open my door. She's knocking on the door. This is one. 216 Lemyra SE, Wyoming, Michigan. Over. My niece made a report for domestic violence last week, and I think it's him. Yeah, husband. Yes, she has a PTO order against him. Yeah, we just got the papers today. She just got the papers today.
Okay. And what is he weigh like Hispanic Asian?
Yeah, she's Hispanic.
Okay, how old?
About 34, 35.
What is he wearing today?
She has a hoodie, dark hoodie, blue jeans, and I think she has a cap. A black cap.
And black hat?
Cap, like a hat.
Okay, what's his name?
He goes by Hernan, but his first name is Luis.
Can you spell it for me?
Luis. Second name, Fernandez. Fernandez. Yep.
Z is a zebra?
Yep.
Okay. Is he still outside?
Yeah, he's outside.
Your niece is date of birth. Just keep the door closed or locked.
Okay, yeah. He's holding at the door.
Does anyone have any weapons?
No, we don't have any.
Okay, does he?
He might have.
Okay. Does he usually have a gun?
Yeah, I think my niece told me that he had buy one like a few months back.
Okay, but we're not sure.
No, I'm not sure. He threw something at the door.
He threw something at the door?
Yes.
Okay, what's your niece's name? Can you ask me?
Oh. He's shooting.
Okay. Everyone take cover, get down.
He's shooting.
Okay, is anybody hit?
No, he tried to open the door. Can you please stay down, please?
Point out your head and you need to stay down. Did any bullets hit through the house at all or hit anybody?
Yes. No, nobody got. No, nobody hit, but we have kids, so.
Okay. Do you know what vehicle he arrived in?
He's driving on. A Chevy,
Right.
red Chevy.
Right.
No, no, he was on nothing outside.
Okay, I need you to answer my question. Is he taking off the vehicle?
No, he's not.
Okay, what kind of vehicle does he drive?
He drives a red Chevy Silverado.
Is he
I
outside?
think he's in the house. He's in the house. Yeah, he's in the house. Please hurry up.
Okay, do you see the somebody? Was somebody just shot? Ma'am, what's going on?
He's in my room.
Okay, does anybody shot when he was in the house?
No, but somebody is trying to come to the house.
Okay,
Please, please, please.
please. Yeah,
Oh,
and
oh, please. Please, he has a gun.
he's at the house.
He's in the bathroom.
In the bathroom? Did he take anyone in the bathroom with him?
No, I think my knee is
She took your keys into the bathroom?
He's looking for my keys.
Okay,
Hurry up,
I
please.
understand the officer is coming in.
Hurry up.
I need everybody to get out of the house. What did you say?
My kids, my bathroom.
Get the kids, get out of the house.
My kids,
Now it ends there. Those last shots you hear would be the officers who have responded. You'll have an opportunity to see that in the body cams. The individual who was at the house is Luis Sandoval. He had lived at that house. He had been actually, as you can hear, the 911 caller talking about, he had been married to the caller's niece who also lived at the house. You heard the 911 call talk about papers, PPO papers. The family had obtained PPO papers that day, just obtained them. They had not actually been filled out or served. So we don't want to, we don't know why he was there, quite frankly. He had been, moved out of the house about a week prior. This is a Ring doorbell video, screenshot from that, but he had been at the house a week before, living there, had moved out. He had been at his brother's house earlier that day. Why he was there, what drove him to be there. This was actually the second time he was there that night. He had shown up earlier, tried to use the door code, but they had changed the door code. And then he had left and then come back at approximately 1 a.m. As you can see, I got the shot because clearly he's got a firearm. You heard that firearm. There's some photos as well. You can see the shots through the door. You'll see it in the video, but there's a circular kind of oval window that he kind of kicked out, shot out, that allowed him to gain access to open up the door, unlock the door, and enter through the front door at that point in time. He had been in the house. As you can see, there's about a dozen people. These are some still shots from the body cam. The body cam really doesn't show a whole lot. You're gonna see the officer's reactions, but these were some freeze frames where you can see him actually inside the house, and that wall, especially the one on the right you see it the best, is where he had actually went into. One of the individuals, not this one here, he had been looking for the niece. The niece he had actually hid in an upstairs bedroom, kid's bedroom. He had actually gone up there, and one of the individuals that runs out of the house, on the body cam you'll see with the 911 caller, lures him back downstairs because he was concerned about what he may do if he found her. And then this is about the time he comes around the corner, sees the police, and then ducks behind that wall. And that's when essentially after the people flee, is when he comes around and points the firearm, that weapon you saw him with earlier, at the officers. The civilians are at that about time leaving the house, running out of the house in fear. And that's when the officers decided to fire. The first body cam here is Officer Bournes. Officer Bournes and Roteman are the two officers that are first on scene. This is his body cam. He was kind of in the lead during this. As I said, it's chaotic. You'll hear, unfortunately, there's a car alarm. There's a truck car alarm. We're not sure. We're assuming the defendant somehow activated the car alarm before in the house, but that goes on through the entire time of this incident. But you have to see, this is Officer Bournes' body cam. He's really the first officer and the one that fires the initial shots. And
what did you say? We might have a victim. Promise you might have a victim.
He's talking to dispatch. He's got an earpiece and you can't hear, so it's not just, that's what you hear. Dispatch is relaying some of this information to him.
Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Do it now. Walk outside. Walk outside. Play in the cup. Play in the cup. You also inside. Let me see your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Step outside. Black shirt. You have a black shirt? Yeah, yeah. Okay. You have a gun? Yeah. Back up. Please back up. Walk outside. Walk outside. 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 Move. Move. Go. 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 Show me your hands. Show me your hands.
This next one will be Officer Roman. I cut it down a little bit more, but this is the officer right behind him.
Show me your hands. Do it now. Let's go. Hands. What's your name? My name. You guys gotta get back. We got 2 people off. Walk outside. Walk outside.
Yeah, pause it right there, Mr. Sandoval. I know that's a Halloween decoration that kind of throws you off when you first watch it. That blue wall is actually the hallway door, the hallway wall. If you go down that hallway, it's a very short hallway. There's a room. The 911 call was in that room. That door had been kicked in. There's photos of the door had been destroyed. They entered that room. He was found behind that wall. Actually, the officers, there's 2 shots that actually struck him by the officers. One hit him, and I believe it was the left ear, went through the ear, kind of an entrance wound in the inside, exit wound, went through the neck. That was not fatal. There was another wound on his side, just below his rib cage. It did cause internal injuries. The ME said that was not fatal. Essentially, what killed Mr. Sandoval there was a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. There's a clear gunshot wound to the head above his ear, and there's soot in the wound. The ME said that's clearly a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and he was dead on the stairs. It took them quite a bit to evacuate the house. They didn't approach because they saw him with the gun. They didn't know his condition at that point in time, and they still had a number of civilians or a number of kids still upstairs that actually had to walk down through the scene and kind of over Mr. Sandoval. So, like I said, they had reasonable cause. This, when you're looking at self-defense, defense of others, both of these apply here. They have reasonable to believe the violent way he had acted leading up to that. As he comes around the corner, both officers indicate he's clearly pointing the gun towards them, whether it be when they're at the door or even Officer Rotman, when he's outside, sees the gun out towards the window. They don't have to wait for him to fire. From the investigation, it does not appear that he actually fired at the officers. There's 3 casings outside that indicate he clearly did fire into the house through that door at some point in time, and there's a single casing that was used to kill himself located in that hallway. So he didn't actually fire at the officers, but that's not required by the law. They just have to have a reasonable belief that they're in danger of death or great bodily harm, whether they themselves or even the civilians, because as you see, those civilians are running out of the house at almost the exact same time when you hear gun, 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 and they fire those shots. So I think they acted, appropriately and should be commended for how they responded, because clearly it's a chaotic scene with a very violent individual. To some extent, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and this is an example of how domestic violence can go bad. We don't know what the intent was of Mr. Sandoval when he arrived there, but clearly he had a gun out and did a lot to break into a house and was looking for his niece. Everybody says he's looking at his niece. He put a gun to one of the residents, trying to get them to tell where his niece was. So you kind of surmise from that he did not have good intentions if he would have found her. And who knows what would have happened to the rest of the individuals in that home had the police not arrived and acted in the way they did. So that's why there are no criminal charges that will be filed against these officers, because I think they acted appropriately given all the facts and circumstances as they knew at the time when they entered that home. So that's my summation. Obviously, you'll have those on the flash drives. You can exactly as they appeared here. Open for any questions as well.
Was the niece in the home?
Pardon?
She
She was hiding upstairs. She went in the closet upstairs and was hiding in a child's closet upstairs when he entered the home. And that one of the 911, you couldn't see him. I actually kind of took him out, but one of the 911 caller, her daughter, and then there's a male that left the house. He was the one that lured Mr. Sandoval downstairs to kind of get him away, because obviously they were concerned of what happened.
So Mr. Sandoval, he was hit 3 times, but none of those were fatal.
Two. He was hit by the officers twice, and then the third shot was his own self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Do we know why he got a PPO?
There's some domestic violence. There's concerns of domestic violence prior, but there was the PPO was never. They got the paperwork to get one, but it was never served. They had just, when they hear on the 911 call, there's papers. From what we found out, they obtained the papers to fill it out, but he had never been served with one. They had not filled one out. They had just gotten the actual papers that day to have it served. And there's no evidence that he even knew. I mean, it's not maybe he did, but we can't tell from the evidence we have at this point in time.
Were any of the kids in the home his kids? Do we know?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't believe so, but it's in the report, and I didn't note that so there's a number of kids, and the 911 caller had 3 or 4 of them. So
I was going to say, how many were in the actual home?
there's 12 individuals in that house. It's a very small house, but they got upstairs, they got a basement, the niece. So there's a lot of individuals. As you saw, there was 1, 2, 5 had come out. So there's still a number of individuals inside the house. It took some time to get those, very traumatic for the kids, trying to watch. I watched the entire body cam and watching how they reacted, remarkably well, quite frankly, given the circumstances, but it's a difficult situation for that family.
So he tried going to the home earlier the day before this?
He did about 11:30, and actually they did a cop logic kind of a online, because, he kind of showed up, punches the things, nothing happens, and he leaves. And so they just, made a report on cop logic, didn't actually ask for a patrol vehicle. But they did make a report, and they kind of, didn't seem that big of a deal at the time. He, obviously they were obtaining a PPO, but there's nothing like this that I guess they could have assumed. You can hear from the 911 call. She's like, "Hey, he's here." But it's not like they're extremely terrified or worried. He had lived there and obviously had some issues, but I don't think they're expecting anything like this.
Well, did you speak with during the investigation?
I didn't speak with anybody. Basically, I worked through the sheriff's department, looking at their reports. They interviewed all the civilians. They, obtained statements. Both officers gave statements, reviewed all the body cams. These are the main ones, but we had, obviously after this occurred, there's a number of other officers that responded on scene, the crime scene technicians, did a full thing. So I never actually directly spoke with anybody other than the responding detectives.
Are the officers back on duty?
I don't know. I let Wyoming know yesterday a little ahead of time about I know they were on administrative leave. I let the Wyoming PD know that I was coming out with this opinion, shared the copy of opinion that I've shared with all of you. So I don't know what their status is at this point in time.
You brought up how this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Unfortunately, in the county, just since January, there have been fatal domestic violence incidents. what you have for, words for people who are going through a situation.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing is to try and hopefully reach out to do something before. I mean, that's the biggest thing. The domestic violence court that we're working with right now, in terms of the victims get frustrated. And, sometimes these cases are hard to prove and proceed against, because a lot of times we don't have body cams. We don't have so many witnesses. The assaults take place in a home with the two of them, and there's not a whole lot of evidence. But I think the biggest thing is to report, keep reporting, get out of the situation. We are resource rich, whether it be Safe Haven, whether it be the YWCA. There are agencies that are out there to help, even if you don't want to make a report. We have victim advocates, a part of the DVAN, the Domestic Violence Action Network, who will work with victims who may not have gone to court. We have advocates in our office that will work with victims, but if people don't want to get involved, there's other advocates that will work with them. So reach out for help, whether it be Safe Haven, the Y, call the hotlines, get out of the situation as best you can before we arrive at a situation like this.
You said you didn't really interview anybody, but how are the family? Do you know how the family's doing since all of this?
I really don't. I mean, I got that night. Beyond that, I have not received any reports.
What's the typical turnaround time for a PPO, and was there a barrier that prevented it from being served that day, or is that pretty typical?
Well, from my understanding, they had not filled it out. It wasn't like they had just got the papers to fill out to then return. So they had not had the typical turnaround. It all depends. That's one of the issues we're looking at, is it can be difficult for victims to serve PPOs. There's a cost associated with it. They have, a service cost. And so there are barriers to that, to get, victims to the right people to get those served. And then it's hard to sometimes serve them because, if they're transient, they don't know where they are. So that is a difficult thing. That is something that we're trying to figure out. How do you make that simpler for the victims? How do you get those served to get them at least, on record that the police can do something if they do show up?
If that had been served, would that have changed the police response? Is there a different dispatch
No,
style?
I mean, because if you listen to, the whole 911, they were in the assumption there was a PPO. Because you hear in the call, they say that we got papers that day, so they're kind of proceeding on the assumption, there's a PPO in place. I don't think they really ran one at the time because they're just responding. So I don't think it would have changed drastically different. Anything else? Well, since I've got you all here, I do have another announcement to make that I was not planning, but I did get notice today that this individual was picked up about 2 years ago on Christmas Eve. There's a fatal car accident on US 131. Kathy Lee Hernandez was killed in that car accident. Recently, we finally got information. This was a very involved investigation by the Michigan State Police. We have charged Fernando Ocampo Aguilar with 1 count of second-degree murder, 1 count of operating while intoxicated causing death, 1 count of operating with license suspended causing death, and 1 count of operating while intoxicated, third offense. This, as I said, it was a Christmas Eve car accident that ended up killing an individual. It took a long time to get. There's basically DNA that we're obtaining for the scene that had to go through that process. We issued this warrant maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I was just informed today that he was picked up on that warrant. So he may be arraigned in the Wyoming District Court today, or for sure tomorrow, I would think, depending on when it's picked up. So since I had everybody here, I figured that was a major enough case. It did get some headlines back in December, obviously Christmas Eve accident that killed somebody, that did get some notoriety. So I wanted to announce that today. So that's all I have, unless you have any other questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll just get this rolling.